Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maureen O'Connor from Quilters Heaven in Northbrook, Illinois, and I am the Opinionated Quilter. Today's episode, I'm going to share with you one of my all-time favorite patterns. This is episode 29. You may notice we are now numbering our episodes so that when people have questions, I can direct them to the proper video easily with a numbered system. The pattern I'm sharing is called Happy Holidays from Atkinson Designs. But before we get to that, let's get to my opinion. Today I'm going to go over foundation piecing. And while we're at it, let's review English paper piecing at the same time. What is foundation piecing? Foundation piecing has a pattern printed on a foundation. Your foundation can be regular paper, as this one is. You can print your pattern on fabric, as in a muslin. You can print it on a stabilizer. Like here's a water-soluble stabilizer. Here's a non-woven stabilizer. Or vellum, which is my favorite because I can see through it easily. But whatever works for you, that's what you should use. So you have your pattern on one of these foundations, as this one is on paper. And you sew on these sewing lines with your fabric on the back. It takes a little getting used to, but once you have it down, it's a great tool to have in your arsenal. Why do we use foundation piecing? We use it when pieces are small and or highly angular. There's lots of books with patterns on them, patterns in them for foundation piecing. You can find them either at your local quilt store or on Amazon, but there's lots around. One of my favorites is Mary Hertel. I think her patterns are hilarious. And if you look at this one, you can see that these pieces are highly angular. You would have a very difficult time piecing those in a traditional method. What's the negative? The negative is a lot of prep work, at least for me. Now, a lot of these books don't tell you to do this, but I have found over the years that if I don't do this, I get pieces that when I flip them over, they don't cover the area they have to cover. So I make templates of every shape that's in the block. And then I take that template and I make it a ½ inch bigger all the way around. So I overcut the pieces. So then after you make the block, you have some waste. So there's additional work and waste, but to get the desired result, look at how cute these are. These are absolutely adorable. So to get the good result, it's worth it to me to do the extra work and the having the little bit of waste. But if a traditional method works, I would rather do the traditional method. And that's what happened when I watched this pattern from a quilter who I subscribe to her channel and I like her very much. But this is the pattern that she showed. And if you can see, this one here is just simply a square squared. And these are flying geese. So I look at this and I say, why would I do all this extra work to do foundation piecing? I think when somebody writes a pattern and they've decided that they're going to do foundation piecing, they do the whole pattern in foundation piecing and don't take into account that some of the units might be easier pieced traditionally. So I look at this, I take my ruler and I say, how big is this square? Well, it's 2 inches finished. So I would go to my square squared ruler of Deb Tucker's and I would make a 2-inch finished square squared. For the flying geese, I do the same thing. I measure, I say, oh, this is 2 by 1. Well, the wing clipper ruler goes down as small as a ½ by 1. So this isn't even the smallest size. So I would make all of my flying geese units rather than foundation piecing and doing the extra prep work, I would do the simple wing clipper method of making the flying geese. This last unit could really go either way. This is a good candidate for foundation piecing, but if you look, this is a 2-inch square. You could put triangles on either side. You could put rectangles here and then put a triangle on the last side. But that would take some care to get done right. This one, you might choose to do it foundation pieced. Bottom line is, this falls into the category of just because a pattern says to do something a certain way doesn't mean you have to do it. You could say, I don't want to do those flying geese. They're too tiny. I want to do it foundation pieced, but I'll do the square squared traditional. Whatever works for you. Just critically look at the pattern and choose what's the best way for you, not blindly follow what the pattern says that would not work as well for you. So before we go to the episode, let's just quickly go over English paper piecing, because people call foundation piecing paper piecing, and English paper piecing and foundation paper piecing are two different things. What is English paper piecing? English paper piecing takes a template. This is a hexagon, doesn't have to be a hexagon. They make diamonds, they make triangles, they make all different shapes. And you take fabric and you baste it around your paper piece, your paper template. So you've got a piece that is basted all the way around. And then you take this piece to your next piece, right sides together, and sew them closed on the edge. And then once you get your pieces put together, you can take out the paper templates and reuse them, 5, 6, 7 times or so. In this block here, I only have paper templates in the white all the way around. The center flower is all pulled out already. One note about how hexagons are measured. Hexagons are measured from the length of the side. So this is 1 inch side to side, while the measurement from point to point is much bigger than that, and from side to side is much bigger than that. But if you were going to purchase 1-inch paper hexagons, this is a 1-inch paper hexagon. They also have all different sizes. Look at how tiny this little diamond is. That would be really hard to traditionally piece it so tiny. But people do it. People fussy cut their fabric to get the designs in the proper place. They do tiny, tiny hexagons. The quilters that do them make beautiful quilts. Not so much my thing, but it is a quilting technique, so I wanted to expose you to it. That's it for this part. Let's get to the episode. This is a really good example of the pattern Happy Holidays from Atkinson Designs. As per usual, their instructions are very well written. And what this is made up of is all 60-degree triangles. These are 60-degree triangles. These are 60-degree triangles. So you can use a 60-degree triangle ruler, the size of which would depend on what size pattern you're making. She gives you 3 different sizes. Creative Grids makes a nice one. The tip is cut off on the top of this one. And I also like the Clearview triangle. The tips are not cut off of the Clearview triangle. If you don't have a 60-degree triangle, which I think most of you do, you can always use your long ruler that they have 60-degree lines on them that you can use to cut the triangles. Easier with your triangle rulers than the straight ruler. The key to this pattern is to have enough contrast between this is your accent, this is the background, and then these are what she calls the assorted prints. This one came out great. I have a round table in my house, and as the holidays and seasons change, I change out the table topper on it. And clearly, this is my Halloween one. I've made it so many times that I've got made a lot of bad ones too. So I'm going to now take this one down and show you um, some of the pitfalls of the pattern so that you can avoid making them. Well, this version, the color contrast is very good. You can see these beer bottles are directional. And while you can make this work, I would highly suggest you not use directional fabric. We had half of ours upside down to start with. We had to remake several of our 60-degree triangles. We eventually made it work, but it was a difficult road to get there. In the end, it turned out great, but it was tough, so I would not suggest doing it. Moving on to the next example is my Valentine's Day one. And what the problem here is, and you can probably see it already, is that there's not enough contrast between these two colors. These are the prints, and this is the accent. And because these are so close in color, all you see is this crazy jagged shape. It just jumps out at you all the way around. It doesn't give you that balanced look that we had on the Halloween one. So be sure that you have a good contrast between your accent and your prints so you don't get this crazy jagged shape. Now there's lots of things you can do with this pattern, and so I'm going to hang up a couple more to show you some of the other options that you can have with this pattern. Here are two more examples of Happy Holidays, and they both fall under the category of switch it up and make it your own. On this one, I took two different fabrics for the center rather than all one. I couldn't decide between the poinsettia and the black, so I did 3 triangles of one and 3 triangles of the other and changed up the center, and I think it turned out pretty darn good. This next one over here, instead of switching up the center, which I left the same, I switched up the prints, switched these up to 2 different color sets where I picked up on the colors of these lights here. And please don't ask to buy this fabric. It's all gone. It's by Studio E, and I told them to reprint it, but they as of yet have not listened to me. So these 4 colors are in here, so I used them. I used the same fabric of all 4, and I really like how this turned out. Now, one note on how this quilt is constructed, and I did it a little bit different. While I love Terry's instructions, I overcut my pieces, and I have a little tip sheet that explains that. I overcut the pieces and I cut these guys out first. And when these 6 center triangles are made, I put markers on my ruler, and then I make sure that this unit, and this unit are the exact same size as these. Now these are pretty much the same except for they're opposite. The one has the print on the left and one has it on the right with the background on the other. So you do have to follow her instructions to make sure that you don't get all one-sided. But once you have this made and these all the same size, this comes together perfectly. And you can make this any size you want. Add borders, don't add borders. She starts with 3 different sizes, but if you vary border sizes, you can essentially make any size you want. I'd just like to show you a couple more that I've made. I have a fall one. I've made a St. Patty's Day one. I've got spring. And I've got winter. So I hope you will make a Happy Holidays for a tree skirt or a table topper. If you like this video, got value from this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, happy sewing.